Welcome, everybody, back into NerdSesh. As always, I'm Carson Bradber, and alongside me is Logan Camden, and you already know the drill. We have two amazing playoff basketball games to talk about today, and in the back half of the show, we're also going to preview the second-round matchup that is Nuggets-Thunder, because that's already getting tipped off tomorrow. But we have to start, Logan, by talking about the Golden State Warriors coming in clutch to take a Game 7 victory in Houston and advance to the second round. This was a roller coaster of a series. The Dubs took the 3-1 lead. Then the Rockets really seized control and convincingly won games 5 and 6. But then Game 7, it's the Dubs who come through. How did they get it done?
It's a really fascinating win because, at a point in this game, at the end of the first half, the Warriors are up 10 and Steph Curry is still scoreless. Buddy Hield puts the team in his backpack to start this game off.
Who was that?
Buddy Hield.
Huh. You still have stock on him. Surely you wouldn't sell stock on him just moments before this performance, right?
I sold all of it, bro. I sold all
of it.
Yeah, if you can.
What are your kids going to do? No more school or food for them?
I ain't got no kids.
Oh, all right. Lucky you.
God bless Buddy Hield. They needed everything they got from Buddy in this game. It was frustrated, Carson. I thought that the Warriors' offense was going to stall out at a point in this game early on just because, like we've talked about, at so many points in this series, there's just so many guys on this team that don't want to shoot the ball, even when there is an advantage created, and you really need that release valve, and the fact that Steph was getting swallowed up so bad. That looked like that was what was going to be what sunk the game for the Warriors in this one. But Buddy keeps them alive, and then we get into the second half. Steph gets going, Jimmy gets going, and they put them away. I want to give the Warriors credit for their zone defense, too, in the second half. I thought they really did a good job of disrupting Houston in a way that they've struggled to in this series. Houston gets going for a stretch in the third quarter, powered by Amen Thompson. He really turned the team up, but it just wasn't enough. And you can only contain Jimmy and Steph for so long. And once they got going, I thought that was the real difference. The fact that Houston just could not turn out reliable offense, and we thought that was what was going to sink them, and it ultimately is. But shout out Buddy, man. You couldn't ask for a better time. I don't know, man. I'm so frustrated with Buddy at certain points, but the Warriors are so starved for guys who can just put the ball in the basket that they need to play him. And they need to play him a ton, man. He swung this game. Shout out Buddy Hield.
This is what I've said after you did initially sell all your stock in the Logan Camden Black Monday after Game 2. And this is what I said after Game 6. Buddy has to play a good amount of minutes in this series because they so desperately need his shooting, especially facing this zone. Now, did I think Buddy was going to do this? Of course not, but he clearly had the best chance to do it of anybody on this team, not named Steph Curry. And for him to give you 22 points in the first half, keeping the offense afloat when Steph was so off, that's the biggest factor in them winning this game. Legitimately, this is one of the best offensive role player performances in the playoffs that I can think of from a player of Buddy's caliber, who is a guy who on the wrong night in the wrong matchup could be getting DNPs. For him to give you 33 points on 12 of 15 from the field, and to single-handedly break the zone that had stifled your offense in the last couple games, it's absolutely game-changing because coming into this one, the Warriors had averaged fewer than 0.8 points per possession against the Houston zone. They were doing a phenomenal job of keeping one man on Steph at all times, passing him off within the zone, but there was always somebody attached to him like glue, and then daring anybody else to make shots within the zone. So if Steph ever touches the ball, basically, he's going to be seeing two bodies. He's never actually going to get free. Somebody else go out there and make a shot. Nobody wanted to take open shots. Nobody else could make open shots. Buddy Hield single-handedly busted that zone in the first half of this game. So that was major problem number one that the Warriors had to solve. And interrelated with that was major problem number two, the double big look that Houston had been killing them with, that had a plus 30 net rating against them in this series coming into this game. And there were a couple of ways that they were able to counter that look in this game. Number one is Buddy doing what he did, making the zone look so much less tenable, because that is when Houston is most comfortable with the two bigs on the floor defensively. You really want to keep Steven Adams planted in the middle. When you have to play man with those guys, and you see this some in the second half, you can bring them out into space and exploit them a little bit more. And Steph was able to do that on a couple occasions. But then also Logan, the guy who you shouted out, who needed more minutes in this series, Kevon Looney, I thought played some excellent minutes in this game. Really good on the glass, really good defensively. He only plays 11 minutes, but they were impactful. And his ability to defend Sengun on an island was really impressive as well. And then also, like, Steven Adams just wasn't nearly as good in this game as he has been this entire series. We've talked about him being a top 2 player for Houston overall in games 1 through 6. They were dominant on both ends with him on the floor. He was so game-changing on the offensive glass, so game-changing as a rim protector. He forces up a couple shots in the first half. In this game, he has a travel. Like, he was struggling more offensively, and then also wasn't able to have his same impact defensively because the Dubs just weren't trying to force attempts at the rim. Buddy Hield was making threes at will. So that was incredible. And I do think that Buddy is the MVP and the hero of this game. Absolutely. I also want to praise what a great collective defensive performance this was by the Warriors, though. You mentioned the zone, super effective. Draymond Green was just outstanding defensively in this game. And by the way, gives you 16, 6, and 5 on the offensive end.
Another thing that I said was Draymond shoot the ball when you're open, and he did in this
one,
man. I was proud at the start of this game. Like, he was being aggressive.
And even more than that, was also making good reads off the short roll. But absolutely, when Dre steps into and makes a couple of threes, that's big time stuff for you. By the way, Draymond in his career in game 7, 16.8 points, 9.3 rebounds, 5.7 assists on 63% true shooting. Game 7, Draymond, real thing, big time player. And his efficiency would have been better if he didn't get stuck with a couple of grenades down the stretch of this game when the Warriors offense was struggling and he just had to kind of huck up threes at the end of the shot clock. But his interior defense as a rim protector and his individual defense on Sengun, I thought both were outstanding. Steph made a number of defensive plays in this game, and Buddy defensively too, man. Like, there were a number of times where they tried to isolate him and target him, and he held up really well. And then he had a big block and a steal down the stretch. So he was just absolutely outstanding. But that's where the Warriors won this game, as well as Buddy's offense and the ability of Steph and Jimmy to step up and just be by far the best offensive players on the floor in the fourth quarter, especially Steph. It was that collective defensive effort. And like you said, just as much of the story here when it comes to the Warriors' excellent defense is the Rockets' incompetence offensively. They had 3 3-pointers made until garbage time, like the last couple minutes of this game. Nobody outside of Amen was able to reliably create an advantage. And then he has the calf thing, so they're without him for a few minutes in the fourth. And they just didn't have anybody who they could reliably trust to create good shots for them. And they didn't have anybody who was a reliable outside shooter. That's going to cost you when Steph Curry really gets going and is able to actually find some matchups he likes and see some single coverage and just does his special shot making stuff. But Steph was also incredible as a driver and finisher in the second half of this game. He beat a blitz and got all the way to the rim. It's the difference. In 3 of the 4 Warriors wins, it's Steph Curry stepping up and being special, at least in the biggest moments. Because in the first half, obviously, he was missing everything, and he was missing some really good looks. But in the second half, he was so good. And the fact that he still ends this game with 22 points on good efficiency, considering how the first half went, is just a testament to how great he really was when the Warriors needed him to pull this one out down the stretch.
Well, I mean, that's all it felt like, right? Like, you just knew that Steph was going to break through and finally get his eventually. You just needed to stay afloat. And not only do you stay afloat, like, Buddy, make sure that you surge ahead in this game. Draymond, I think, deserves the most credit defensively. I do want to give a shout out to Looney, too. And another reason I wanted them to play Looney is when they give him minutes with Steph, they just leave Looney alone. They blitz Steph so early in the pick and roll that Steph can get that ball out to Looney, and he's got a ton of space to work in between the middle. And it's like, it's not like Looney's the most skilled guy, but you're going to give anybody that much space to work with. They can find an open player or they can get to a look. Like, if they're just going to concede that every time, I'll take it. But I think Draymond deserves the most amount of credit, especially throughout this series, for how he disrupted Sengun in single coverage. And I do think you've got to be very critical of the Rockets and their lead guards. Van Vliet wasn't better in this game, but with the level he had reached in the past 2 games, I kind of tend to give him a pass, and he hit some big shots in this one. But Jalen Green, Carson, in this series gives you 13 points per game on 37% from the field, under 30% from deep, and 48% true shooting. I mean, it's a truly abysmal series for Jalen Green, where you feel like if he could have just gave you a little bit extra in some of these games, maybe you pull it out. Sengun, I'm less critical of. I thought this was a really tough matchup for him, and for the most part, he delivered in this series. Like, this really, to me, falls at the feet of Jalen Green and just the Rockets' overall shooting. It's disappointing, man, but it's not like we couldn't have seen this coming, right? Like, we thought this was going to be the difference, and it ends up being the difference to me in this one. The fact that the Warriors had the 2 most reliable offensive players in this series, and they come through here in Game 7.
They absolutely did, and the Rockets were the best team with a half-court offense this bad that we've seen in a long while. And I have to give them so much credit for finding every advantage they had in this series and really maximizing them in the back half, like especially in games 5 and 6, going to the zone, going to the double big look so much. They pushed this series to the brink in spite of the fact that they were a 20th percentile half-court offense and are like well below anybody who we're going to see in the second round in terms of their capabilities there. But at the end of the day, when the Warriors are able to execute at a high level defensively, and when they aren't giving you a lot of opportunities to get out and transition, and when they're able to keep you off the glass decently well, Rockets still got 14 offensive boards in this game, but it wasn't enough for them to produce good offense off of that alone. Then you're just going to see them melt down offensively. Jalen Green, I have no expectations for. I don't think he's good. I've been saying this for a long time. This series was still ugly, though, even being a flat-out Jalen Green non-believer. Like, for 6 out of 7 games to be as bad as they were is really damning, even though we know that he's extremely volatile. Like, to only have 1 game where you're getting the highs, and in every other game, he's off as a pull-up shooter. He is totally uncomfortable as a decision maker. He's sped up whenever you send 2 at him. He's not consistently getting downhill to the rim. And when he is, he's out of control or he's too contact averse. He's not getting to the line. He's struggling to finish. Like, while he's not being bad defensively, but you just have such superior options with some of your bigger wings. Like, he was just a negative for them in this series. And I understand that Rockets fans have wanted to hold out hope because this guy was the 2nd pick in the draft and he's still their leading scorer this regular season.
I think he's the odd man out.
Yeah, he's just not somebody who is conducive to winning basketball with his inefficiencies and with his very limited playmaking and with his limited all-around impact. So I would be so much more than willing to move him this offseason. In fact, that is 100% what I would be trying to do. His extension is about to kick in. It's not a massive extension, but he's still going to be making, I think, like north of $35 million per year. And I think there's so much to like with the Rockets. I think Amen is going to be an all-star by next year. Like you, I was impressed by Sengun. I still think he needs to get better as a finisher. I think his touch needs to improve. I think he has to add a legitimate jump shot. But his ability to produce half-court offense in a really difficult environment against a really good defense with a lot of questionable offensive pieces around him, like, I was still impressed with. I thought his defense was good. I thought his rebounding was excellent. I think you feel really good about those two, even though, like, you might think on paper they're weird together because Amen being a non-outside shooting wing playing along a non-shooting big like Sengun. I just think they're so good, and they both have unique impacts on the game where I do think that they work together. But if I can move Jalen Green, certainly to get Devin Booker, and like, I don't think that he is anywhere near the enticing piece in that deal, but it's Jalen Green and a ton of draft capital. And I'll give you Tyrese, and like, we'll give you some more guys on the margins.
I mean, I wonder if you might have to sacrifice another young player, you know, like a Whitmore or a Shepard or something to get that deal done. But
I would do that.
I would too.
No hesitation. Because I think that Devin Booker immediately levels this team up to being like at least in fringe contender conversations, as opposed to a team that you struggle to see winning a first-round series. Because this defensive foundation is exceptional.
Amen's going to get way better, and I don't want to glaze him too much because we talk about Amen a lot.
No, you should.
that stretch in the third quarter was ridiculous, and some of those plays, like the putback he has in this game
Insane.
where he just flicks it up with his hand.
With the
He's got
left too, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he's got the other one where he's got a putback dunk off of his own miss.
Mm-hmm.
He's got another nasty one where he hits this behind the back dribble into a like jelly layup. Like Amen is going to continue to get better and better, and when you've got so much other like talent here, like this defense is going to continue to be elite with the athletes and the players that you have in this system.
Mm-hmm.
Just get that offensive number one and see what happens, man. I think the Rockets are very close with the young talent they have and with the massive pool of assets that they have. And like you said, man, I mean, I really think it could be one offseason. You make that big move and you're there. I don't think it's a question of are you a contender or not. It's a question of are you going to get through? Like, I think they're going to be there if they make a big swing like that to get a KD, to get a Devin Booker. I think they are contenders, and it's just going to be a matter of do they perform up to the level they need to, and how much better can they get the surrounding shooting? Because that would be the other concern. Getting that number one, that KD, that D-Book, whatever player it is that you're seeking, and then it's maybe compromising a little bit more of that defense to get some more shooting or to just get more complementary pieces, but it's not like a full rebuild or you're blowing everything up. You make a couple of changes, move some stuff on the margins, and you're there. I think the Rockets are really, really close, and I think they should be really aggressive in this offseason to get that player if he comes available, especially because I think the Suns, if they're smart, and I could see the Suns being stubborn and ignorant and standing pat, if they're smart, I think they should be desperate and be willing to make those moves. I think it would be mutually beneficial for both sides if we saw a Phoenix-Houston deal.
Well, Phoenix gets back their own picks. I think that's
Exactly.
the biggest part of it.
I think that's what they need to do.
Yeah, Houston can put together a phenomenal package. I would be much more inclined to do it for Book than KD if I were them, just because I think it matches up more nicely in terms of their timeline. But them -1 Jalen Green and other assets +1 Devin Booker, I think is an awesome basketball team. And the foundational piece here is Amen, man. I've been saying it since they drafted him. He is the best asset, and he has a ceiling that is so astronomically high. And you saw why he is such a special talent in the back half of this series. Not only is he one of the best defensive players on the planet already, with such a unique blend of that elite point of attack defense and matchup versatility where he can take on Steph at a really high level, but he can also take on bigger wings. And then he's also this insane rim protecting wing and elite rebounding wing. His ability to just get downhill, get to the rim at will, and finish was freakishly impressive. And I was just so happy watching his comfort increase as this series went along, because early in the series, it felt like the Rockets didn't fully know what to do with him, and they were kind of trying to use him as a screener and sometimes they just had him sort of running the baseline, and he also didn't look as comfortable driving into traffic against a playoff defense that was going to just like ignore their questionable shooters and really load up on drives and try to take away the paint above all else. So I thought the start of this series, Amen certainly didn't play up to his potential. But in the last 4 games, he averaged 20 points, 8 boards, 2.5 assists with his elite defense on 62% true shooting. And the ceiling with him as a primary ball handler, I do think is extremely high because he has such unique rim pressure and finishing potential just with his size and athleticism, his first step and everything. I do think he's a really good passer, and his touch improved so much this year. It still has a ways to go, but I just think it's on such a positive trajectory compared to where he was at as a prospect. And he's always going to do great stuff as a cutter, right? And he's always going to be phenomenal in transition, but just seeing him able to, in a more slowed down half court environment, still really produce in the back half of this series with the ball in his hands, with bad spacing against a really good defense was so impressive.
That's exactly what I was going to say is Amen's doing this in a really mucked up, like clogged up environment. You get this guy some more surrounding shooting, and who knows how great this offense can really be built around him. And also, the other thing that I was going to say about Amen is the trajectory that he's been on, man. I mean, he's exponentially improving like game to game with some of this stuff, and
His free throw shooting even got so
His
much better as the series went along. Like, he just settled in, played his game, and was the Rockets' best player in the last 4 games of this series. Sengun was the best player overall because the men got off to a slow start. Sengun was the most consistent, but the level that Amen reached as a year 2 player who has infinite upside from here, so exciting.
And
so
I'm
impressive.
very intrigued about his touch and his shot improving as he gets older and older, man. Like I'm very encouraged. He's so smart, dude. Amen Thompson is just so smart. It's just so rare to see a guy that just understands how to win and how to maximize his impact on the game at such a young age, man. Like most guys this young don't get it, and Amen does. And then you couple that with the fact that he is so talented. I'm just excited, man. Houston's got building something special, man.
Between pick and rolls and isolations, Amen generated over a point per possession in this series. Considering how hard offense was to come by, that is a really good number for him because obviously he's dominating in transition on the offensive glass, all this stuff. But to be that good as a creator in the half court, like, this is a guy who had so many special tools as a prospect, but you would have considered like one of the more raw, crazy, high upside prospects to go that highly in the draft. And he's already developed so much. We'll stop with the Amen glaze, but I just think you have to feel so good about his performance in this series. How do you feel about the Warriors going forward, Logan? We won't get into the specifics of their matchup coming up against the Timberwolves just now, but with how scary the back half of this series ended up being for them, they're able to pull it out. Are you more encouraged or discouraged by what you saw from them in the first round?
A little discouraged. I'd liked for them to have been a little more consistent. I'd like to believe in this offense a little more. I just still know how limited they are around Jimmy and around Steph, because if you don't get this historic Buddy Hield game, how different does this game look? Does the offense just completely stall out and the Rockets eke out a 76-74 win or something ridiculous like that? Like, I'm a little bit discouraged. I would have moved them down. And also, I think this just also has to do with the fact that I'm more encouraged by Minnesota. I thought they looked dominant against LA, and so that has part to do with it. I would have liked for their offense to have been a little better. I would have liked Steph to have been a little bit more consistent. But they're here. And, I mean, they won a playoff series. I don't think this team would have won a playoff series with the iteration of their roster that we saw before the trade deadline. So,
brother, they wouldn't have made the play-in.
You know, I agree. So they're maxing out. Whatever they do this year is them getting to their ceiling, and it's better than they would have been at the start of this year. So I think whatever else we get out of the Warriors I think this is a successful season.
Oh, it's absolutely a successful season. I would agree, though, that I am lower on them after this series than I was coming into it. And the reason for that is just seeing the full roulette wheel role player experience with them play out in a playoff series. It's concerning. And like, there were some high highs. Obviously, Buddy doing this is absurd. I thought the role players collectively were really good in game 4, but then in games 5 and 6, they couldn't find anybody who they trusted to execute against that zone. And when teams are able to send to it Steph, to blitz every pick and roll, to zone up without being punished by anybody else, like, teams are going to dare those guys and force those guys to make plays in the playoffs. And that's why it's phenomenal that Buddy did in this game. It's really incredible. But even Pod's super inconsistent in this series. Draymond steps up and makes some shots in this one, but he's obviously super unreliable offensively. And again, it's always a game to game thing in terms of who's even going to play. Like, I've been a Moses Moody advocate. He comes into this game, he chucks up 5 shots. He doesn't make a single one of them. Jonathan Kuminga touched the floor in this game. I almost pulled my hair out, man. I couldn't believe it. He goes 0 for 4. He has a bad turnover. I thought it was insane that in game 7, and this was when they were still trying to figure out the zone that had given them so much trouble, he puts in Jonathan Kuminga, a bad decision maker and a non-shooter, to try to attack a defense that he hasn't even individually seen because he hasn't played basically in this series. He hasn't played at all against the zone, and he's in a lineup with 2 other non-shooters. I couldn't believe that Kerr was like, yeah, let's see what Kuminga can do. He pulled him pretty quick, but he was just terrible. So that's the scariest thing for me. The lack of reliable contributors outside of the big three, but shout out to the big three, man, because when you needed them in their wins, Draymond was sensational defensively. Steph, outside of game 4, and again, the first half of this one, but he was great offensively when they were at their best. And Jimmy was able to give you enough in this one. He was able to give you enough, certainly, in game 4. So it's a great series win for the Warriors. The Rockets were never going to be a team that you could just roll over. They just fight too hard. They have too many physical advantages. And they're dogs, man. They are absolutely dogs. And if they get rid of one Jalen Green, then I will feel a lot better about them. And obviously, they just need to upgrade their guard creation in general. Like, they needed Van Vliet back-to-back magnet ball games to improve their offense. And they just shot above their means in both games 5 and 6. And their offense was really good for those 2 games. But outside of that, they really struggled to produce in this series. Let's talk about the game 1 that we saw today, Logan. Pacers, Cavs. This was awesome. I will say, now that Rockets Warriors is done, I'm ready to declare that this was the best first round of the NBA playoffs that I have ever been so lucky to witness. Would you agree? Like, in totality, this first round was the best I've ever seen.
The depth of all the teams, I felt like this might. Am I crazy? I mean, you're our resident historian, Carson. Am I saying for saying this might be the most talented field ever? I don't know. I just felt like the parity between these teams was closer than I can remember it in my lifetime, at least. From 1 to 8, all the teams in the field. I thought it was, especially in the West, less so in the East, obviously. But I agree with you. This is my favorite first round ever. It was super competitive, and I just felt more confident in all the teams. I thought they were more talented than most years.
We've seen some great Western Conference years in the past, but I would agree the sheer evenness of 2 through 8 basically in the field this year in the West was crazy. How many of those teams were legitimately good, but none of them outside of OKC I would call great. So it is extremely competitive. All those matchups were super exciting on paper, and they all lived up to the hype in their own ways. Like Nuggets Clippers was so much fun. Timberwolves Lakers, even though it was only 5, was a whole lot of fun. We got some great games out of that, and we absolutely got some great games out of this one. So I do think this is the best first round that I've ever seen. I'm also extremely excited for the second round, though. And I was just thinking, man, how lucky are we that the second round in the East this year and the Eastern Conference Finals are going to be a lot better than last year because everybody's healthier and the field is just better. And part of that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had a historic regular season, but another part of it is the Indiana Pacers, Logan, who are back after their conference finals run last year, and they came out and they sent a message in game 1. They take a win in Cleveland. This is without Darius Garland on the floor for the Cavs, who it sounds like is going to be back for game 2, probably dealing with that toe sprain. How did Indiana get this done, Logan? And what do you take away from their performance?
I mean, their offense never stopped coming. Tyrese Haliburton gives you 22 points and 13 assists on 69% true shooting. Nembhard gives you 23 points and 6 assists, knocks down 5 threes. Nesmith gives you 17 and 4 threes. And then they also get 41 from Turner, Siakam, and Mathurin. I thought the Cleveland defense got beat a lot in transition and from behind the arc. Indiana outshoots them by 30 from deep. And they just did such a good job of moving so quickly and not letting the Cleveland defense set up or ever get comfortable. And this Indiana offense has a lot to do with constant motion and off-ball movement. Everybody continues moving within the offense. It's really hard to defend. The Pacers offense uses every square inch of the offensive floor, deep twos on the inside, on back cuts. And so they do a really good job of spreading out the defense and making defenders defend in isolation, one-on-one. And they do a good job of dragging the rim protector out away from the rim. I thought they did a good job of that in this one. But, I mean, the Pacers are just really hard to defend. And so I was disappointed from Cleveland in that aspect. Like Mobley and Allen's impact in general, I thought on the defensive end, I thought was minimized by Indiana. Not so much rebounding, but defense. I
thought Mobley was pretty good. Jared Allen got cooked by one Tyrese Haliburton. That's for sure.
I was disappointed in both of them, if I'm being honest. Mobley less than Allen, but I was disappointed in both. But I also thought, like you felt, Cleveland missing Darius Garland. And for how poor Cleveland shot from behind the arc and for how bad I thought their defensive performance was by their standards, I'm kind of encouraged by this game for Cleveland. The offense was a lot more labored. You got more Ty Jerome, more Sam Merrill. I thought Donovan Mitchell did a really good job of giving you points in bunches because Cleveland desperately needed it. He gives you 33, but he also shoots 1 of 11 from behind the arc. And Cleveland's just got to shoot better. They go 9 of 38. That's where Garland's going to help you. The supplementary ball handling, playmaking, and just shooting. And hopefully Mitchell will have way less of a burden on his shoulders and the offense can just flow. I thought Ty Jerome did a good job in the minutes that he did fill in for. 21 points, 8 assists, but I thought he could have been a little bit better. But I expect Cleveland to be a lot better, basically in all areas. Defense, I think they've got to do a better job of getting back in transition and setting up. I think they need to do a better job of staying active and rotating faster. But I did like the effort in the rebounding that we got. I thought they won the rebound battle, the second chance points battle, and Mobley did a really good job there. But I'm expecting better shooting, better offense, and easier offense in general with the return of Darius Garland. But I really need to see this Cleveland defense bounce back, man. That's probably the biggest area where I was disappointed. Just like letting Cleveland get too many easy points, with like little resistance. I think they can do a better job of hopefully slowing them down because I thought Indiana got a lot of easy looks in this game.
Indiana's also just a great offense, man, and they're a really difficult offense to slow down. I would probably be more critical of Cleveland's offense in this one, but I do think a lot of that has to do with Garland's absence. I want to give props to Indiana for what they did offensively in this one, though, and specifically, I want to give props to one Tyrese Haliburton, Logan. It's a good day for me when Amen Thompson balls out, but the Warriors win, and when Tyrese Haliburton balls out, I'm eating good, man. He was so damn good in this game. He was the best player on the floor, no doubt about it. And specifically where I thought he was so great was in the exact area that I highlighted before this series was going to be key. I expected the Cavs to be very switch heavy versus the Pacers out of pick and roll because they have two bigs who are quite capable guarding in space. Mobley is great there, but Allen is very solid guarding in space, and they don't want to play drop. They don't want to give those pick and pop looks to Indy's bigs. They're not going to blitz Hallie. He's too good a passer. The Pacers' collective passing and play finishing is too good. So the best option is switch. Try to make Hallie beat you as a scorer. He was off as a jump shooter last round. So you say, okay, we'll take our chances with that. But he just torched Jared Allen. He didn't go at Mobley, which is probably a good business decision, but he kept on getting that Allen switch, and he generated 10 points on 6 isolations against him, was able to hunt his step back three and create a ton of space, was able to get to the mid-range, beat him with a nasty step through to kind of put this game on ice. But there were also 2 other times where he blew by him in space, not on isolations, off the catch, and then he scored on a drive. So he was doing a great job of getting past Jared Allen, getting into the paint, being a consistent, impactful, aggressive scorer, which is what they need him to be in this matchup. But then also phenomenal playmaking. 13 assists, 1 turnover, pushed pace for this team so well. That's something that makes Indiana's offense so great. Their ability to generate early offense more consistently than anybody else. And Hallie deserves the most credit for that. He just created so many great looks for his teammates. He took exceptional care of the basketball, offensively sensational, and some huge defensive plays in this one, man. Donovan Mitchell got hot for a stretch, but Hallie clamped him to force a stop in the last few minutes of this game, and then he found Siakam on a leak out. So that was a 4-point swing potentially that was caused by Hallie. He blocked Ty Jerome in the last few minutes. He blocked Max Strus in the last few minutes. So the level that he's been at defensively these last couple games, it's probably the best 2-game stretch of defense I've ever seen from Hallie. He's got 6 blocks and 4 steals in the last 2 games. So he was the best player on the floor. He was hugely impactful, and give him his respect, man. Hallie is the most disrespected player in basketball. Somehow he got voted the most overrated. He is much closer to the most underrated. This guy's just going to keep leading out elite offenses, and he's going to keep leading teams to win playoff series. They made the conference finals last year. They took easy care of the Bucks, and then they beat the 1 seed in game 1 in this one. Like, these are not accomplishments that should be taken lightly, and the box score is never going to appreciate how great he was, but even the box score looks pretty damn good for Hallie in this one. There are some other Pacers, though, who really stepped up and were very good in this game. Andrew Nembhard, man, what a playoff riser this guy has been the last couple years. Lots of just incredible shot making from him in this one, like late shot clock. He made 3 separate tough threes, and he also made another foot on the line too as the shot clock was winding down. So some of these possessions were just, we need you to save us, Andrew, and he did it. And that was really big, the ability to provide some of that late in the shot clock offense. But he also had a nice playmaking game. He's always a good point of attack defender. So when he's shooting like this, when he goes from a 10-point per game guy on 54% true shooting in the regular season to a 16-point per game guy on 67% true shooting, which is what he's been in the playoffs, like, that's massive. He's such a good basketball player. Aaron Nesmith, great as a shooter, active on the glass, really good all-around impact. Miles Turner was really active defensively, and he was pretty efficient offensively. So this was just the Pacers experience, man. Like, they're going to get so many collective contributions. Their offense can feel unstoppable with their pace when Hallie is at his best, and they have so much collective passing when they're shooting like this, for sure. And this was an outlier shooting performance in both ways, in the good direction for Indiana and in the bad direction for Cleveland. That's obviously not going to be sustained at all, but they're creating great shots, and the ball is moving around at a lightning speed, and their offense is just so explosive. They are really, really hard to beat if you aren't at your sharpest on both ends. And I just did not think that Cleveland was in this one.
Yeah, and I just think Darius Garland is so important to this team.
Absolutely.
Man. Like, I just think this really speaks to – I noticed a big difference, and I thought that Cleveland's offense still did a good job of generating opportunities. Okoro had some moments in this game with, like, secondary playmaking. Again, like, I really like the, collective shooting and playmaking, but you don't get enough from Strus. Garland just makes everything so much easier. Like, I don't think we can underrate that, man. And I think you're going to notice the Cleveland offense going so much smoother. It's going to look way easier when Garland is back out there. And, like, they're always going to be good when you have as much talent as Cleveland does, right? With a Mobley and with a Mitchell and with a DeAndre Hunter and with an Allen. Like, they're going to be able to generate good looks. Garland is the guy that made this Cleveland offense the best in the league. He's the guy that took them over the top and gave them their ultimate superpower and what they're really special at. And I agree with you, man. I think Cleveland can look way better on both ends of the court. And to be fair, I mean, Indiana went further than them last year. Indiana has more collective experience than this team top to bottom. Like, they did this last year. And they have their identity. Cleveland's going to have to match the intensity because Indiana's going to bring it every night, man. This is what Indiana's been doing this for 2 seasons now, man. And I do want to give them some respect. I think I may have, even though I didn't expect Darius to be healthy, though I expected Darius to be healthy, I probably should have put a little bit more respect on Indiana and said Cavs in 6 at least.
Yeah.
Indiana's not going to go out without a fight, man. And like you said, even in our preview, you mentioned how good of a sweep it was against Boston last year. Like, all of those games were super tight.
And that was without Hallie for half of that series even. So I was surprised when you went Cavs in 5. I went Cavs in 6, and honestly, I was closer to 7 than 5. And if I knew that Garland was going to miss any time, maybe I would have gone 7. I can't say. I was not expecting him to continue to be out with this toe sprain when we did our series predictions. I just thought, like, he already missed games 3 and 4 against Miami. Then he's got a full week off. Like, I thought for a playoff game, he'd be back in time to start this series, but he wasn't. He is supposed to come back for game 2, but his absence is huge in this one. He has been their best offensive player in the clutch this year. And I would argue he's their most consistent offensive player because his playmaking is so reliably elite. Donovan Mitchell is still their best player, in my opinion, but there's more volatility with him because he can have these crazy scoring stretches, but then he also has his stretches where the pull-up 3 is off, where the playmaking isn't what it needs to be, and he can sort of get into that hero ball, very score-first mode. Garland is always going to make the right decisions. He's always going to be super efficient as a jump shooter, getting to his floaters, and he's just a great stabilizing presence. So without him, I thought you noticed a couple of things happen that were costly to the Cavs offense. First of all, big burden on Ty Jerome in this game. And I love Ty Jerome. I have done nothing but praise him this entire year. He still had 21 points and 8 assists, like you mentioned, but I honestly didn't think that he played very well. He got blocked 4 times in this game, man. He kept getting caught.
Why was he bitching so hard too, man? That was the only thing that was making me mad, is he was taking bad shots and then complaining about it.
I totally agree, dude. I mean, he just kept getting caught after that decel step, and he didn't have any separation. He was just getting smothered by bigger defenders and getting blocked on his floaters, which if he can actually get up cleanly, that's an incredible shot for him. But it was really bad. And I'm with you on the complaining defensively or offensively, because then he's not getting back in transition defensively. I did not like the shots that he was getting to. And it wasn't the game they needed from him. There's also a moment where I think it was Neesmith is picking him up with full court ball pressure and forces an 8-second violation. So if he's going to have this sort of burden, they need more out of him. And that's just a lot to ask of a bench guard, even though I think he was the best bench guard in basketball this year. And then the other effect of Garland being out is that I thought we got a Donovan Mitchell hero ball game in this one, where he felt like there was a huge burden on him. And there was a big burden on him, but he puts up 30 shots in this one, and he was phenomenal getting downhill. Like, the Pacers could not keep him away from the rim. But when he shoots 1 of 11 from deep and he's not really getting his teammates involved, he ends up not being efficient, not being super impactful as a playmaker, and not playing the best version of a Donovan Mitchell game. I also thought, like, you just felt everybody had a little more pressure on them to create in this one. Like Evan Mobley, I thought played a really good game, but he tried to do a little too much on offense. Like, he was great attacking some mismatches decisively. He was really good off the roll. There was a stretch where the Mitchell Mobley pick and roll looked unstoppable, and then they stopped going to it as much, and Mitchell wasn't feeding Mobley off the roll. But Mobley hits a couple threes in this one too, so he did some really good things offensively. But he also had 4 turnovers, and I thought basically all of those were a product of him over dribbling, which I don't think you see as much of with Garland in the offense. And in the last few minutes, there's one possession, the Cavs are down 6. Mobley runs pick and roll with Allen screening for him and steps into like a pretty contested pull-up 3. So he just forced the issue much more than usual. I always say that I want Mobley to be aggressive, and I do. There were a couple lines where he crossed the aggression threshold that I would like him to be at, though, and took it a little bit too far. So there were just a number of spots, especially down the stretch of this game, where if I'm the Cavs, I would have wanted to be able to put the ball in Darius Garland's hands, and they couldn't do that in this one. So when he's back, presuming that he's right, like presuming that this toe sprain isn't going to really impact him once he's back on the floor, I think their offense is going to be absolutely cooking. I think it's an even better offense than Indiana's, even though they're both great. And I do think Cleveland has the better defensive personnel too. But when Cleveland has that much creation on the floor and they have as much shooting as they do, they are the hardest offense in basketball to slow down. They were a historic offense this year for a reason, and Garland is a huge part of that.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't think Indiana is going to be able to slow Cleveland down as well when they get back. Like, I think we could be in for some track meet games, but
100%. I think we're in for one of the most high scoring and most offensively efficient series like in league history. No exaggeration.
By and large, I think over the course of a 7-game series, I trust Cleveland's defense to still disrupt Indiana's more than vice versa, and that's why I'm going to go with Cleveland. And again, statistically, even though these are 2 elite offenses, Cleveland's was the best in the NBA this season, and I'm going to bet on that.
I would agree. There was one coaching decision from Kenny Atkinson that I didn't like in this game. I'm not sure why he started Sam Merrill. Shout out Sam Merrill. He's a very good offensive player, but I thought that especially in his first stint in this game, he was getting targeted defensively, and they were having to slant their defense to cover up for him if it's loading up his side with help or if it's scrambling to get him out of a switch. Like, I just didn't understand why they were compromising their defense when they could have a really versatile defensive wing like DeAndre Hunter out there starting, who is also awesome offensively. Like, the Cavs have so much depth. They have so much offensive depth. That's part of what makes them special. But if there's anybody whose minutes I thought could go down as you get deeper in the playoffs, it was Sam Merrill. And I get that they're down Garland, so I guess he wants to start a guard and like something of a ball handler, even though that's not Sam Merrill's job. I just didn't understand that. He only played 18 minutes, but I would be going with even more Hunter. I'd probably be playing even more Strus. I'd go to Dean Wade minutes to have that defensive versatility. Not as big of a Sam Merrill guy as Kenny Atkinson is, but I think at full strength, the Cavs have so much depth. They have so much offensive firepower, and then they have the elite star creation. I'm just really excited for the rest of this series. I think we are going to watch such pretty offense if it's the Cavs pick and roll and their shooting and their player and ball movement. The Pacers always are going to play the most selfless team offense that you'll ever see. Both these teams play really fast. Like, it's just really fun. They both have so many good basketball players. That's something I love about this series. Like, there are no tough watches out there. Everybody who's seeing the floor down to the 8th, 9th men, they're good basketball players. So I'm really excited. I think that this is going to go at least 6. I do think the Cavs are better, but I think it's going to be one of the best watches of the playoffs. We are going to take a quick break. And then on the other side, we are going to preview that Nuggets Thunder series that gets started tomorrow after some quick words from DraftKings. The NBA 82 game grind is done, and now the real fun begins. The NBA playoffs are here, and it's time for all the high stakes drama, clutch moments, and jaw dropping plays. I can't wait. If you're looking to make the playoffs even more exciting, DraftKings Sportsbook has you covered as an official sports betting partner of the NBA. From the play-in games all the way through to the finals, now's the time to back your favorite players and teams as they chase glory.
All season long, DraftKings has been the go-to spot for NBA player props, and that doesn't stop now. Want to make your playoff experience even more intense? Try placing a bet on your favorite player's performance. Will they drop 30 points, 40, or more? It's your call. Ready to place your first bet? Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now, lock in your bets, and let's make this playoff run unforgettable.
Here's something special for first-timers. New DraftKings customers bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Make it a playoff run to remember with DraftKings. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code NERDS. That's code NERDS for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. The one thing that I think is worth probably hammering home even a little bit more from that game, Logan, is just how insane the three-point disparity really was. Like, the Pacers going plus 30 from behind the three-point line, shooting better than double the percentage of the best three-point shooting team in basketball this year. Like, that is obviously not going to be sustained, and the Cavs offense is really going to get
Cleveland
going.
Kept this close for so long.
Without Garland, I think it is a positive indicator for them, but also this should very much legitimize just how real the Pacers are and how good they've been ever since their slow start to the year, ever since they got things turned around. Let's talk about a matchup that I'm very excited for, Logan. Nuggets Thunder. We have, of course, the 68-win OKC Thunder against the Nuggets, who just fought their way out of a tough 7-game series against the Clippers. The Thunder certainly are viewed as the heavy favorites coming into this series, but they also have the very unique challenge of figuring out what they're going to do with the best player on the planet, and in my opinion, the best offensive player ever, opposite them in Nikola Jokic. How do you expect the Thunder to approach that challenge, Logan, and how do you think their defense fares in that matchup?
I think they can do a pretty solid job. I'm going to put you on the spot real quick here, Carson. Oklahoma City had the 4th best defensive rating of any Western Conference team versus Denver this season. Can you tell me the 3 teams that were better?
Ooh, that is an interesting question. Do we have the Rockets?
You don't have the Rockets, actually. I think that Jokic tore through the Rockets.
I wonder if you get the Grizzlies, because they played Memphis twice without Jokic, if I remember correctly.
This is number 1, actually.
Are the Clippers on here?
The Clippers are not. That's not a bad guess. It was pretty. It was
Clippers played them
relatively
really well.
lower.
Clippers played them really well, and they guarded Jokic better than anybody this year. Well, the Timberwolves are probably here.
Minnesota's actually one spot below Oklahoma City, but very
Oh,
low. They held them to 113.5.
this list is getting weird,
This
man.
surprised me. San Antonio and Golden State are at 2 and
I was
3.
thinking about guessing the Dubs.
San Antonio also had a game where Jokic
That's so
didn't
weird
play,
because, and so did the Dubs, but the Nuggets won that game, even though, like, not only did Jokic not play, I feel like nobody played for them in that game. Huh.
it's strange. But Oklahoma City put up as good of a fight as you could have against Denver's elite offense, and that's really the matchup to watch. Denver against this elite Oklahoma City defense. I've said it throughout this year, but I think Oklahoma City has, at minimum, 6 all-defense caliber players in Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, Kason Wallace, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. The guy that I'm most worried about in this series is definitely Jamal Murray for Denver. In the regular season this year, Jamal put up 21 points and 5 assists a night on just 53.8% true shooting. And just, it's really tough, and it's going to be tough on this entire supporting cast against all of these guys who are great on-ball defenders and can apply such elite ball pressure and just make life difficult. None of their motors ever stop. They're really crisp on rotations and stuff, but they can all defend in isolation, and they're all in this exact archetype that really works against a guy like Jamal Murray, who they're going to make, him handling the ball difficult. They're going to contest every single one of his jumpers. And so what can Denver do to mitigate some of this? Well, I think Jokic Carson has to be aggressive all series long in single coverage, and I think he has to eat against Holmgren and Hartenstein in single coverage. That I can definitely see. I think Jokic can shoot better than he did in the regular season against these guys. He only shot 29% from behind the arc. I definitely think that can improve. But against Oklahoma City in the regular season, he put up 25, 16, and 12. Jokic, I think, is going to get his, and I think he's going to make really well off of it. Outside of that, I think you just got to hope for good shooting series from Westbrook and Brown. Those guys are going to get open looks. I think Oklahoma City is going to be content to leaving those guys open, and I think you just have to really hope that they shoot well. But actually, like schematically, I'm trying to get the bigs out on the perimeter in pick and rolls and trying to get them to defend in space as many opportunities as I can get Jokic one-on-one against those guys. I'm also going to try to get opportunities where I can get them away from the rim where they're less impactful, but also get them defending out in space against the Jamal Murrays on my team and MPJ if I'm the Nuggets. And then I think you just need consistent high-level play from all their role players, man. Like, all hands on deck. They got to bring it defensively. Denver's depth is the reason they won against the Clippers. But yeah, you just got to hope that you get good shooting series from Gordon, from MPJ, from Westbrook, and from Brown. And I would give Peyton Watson a look in this series, man. I think Peyton Watson could give you some good minutes. And I'm not talking about a ton of burn, but I think 12 to 16 minutes a night or something along that, feel it out, I think is pretty reasonable for Peyton. And I just think his size and athleticism and energy could be disruptive in this series. But I thought for a while in the regular season, Oklahoma City would pretty handedly wipe Denver. I think this is going to be a really good series, man. I think it's going to go 7 games. I'll say who I'm taking, but I think this series is going to go the distance, man. I think it's going to be super competitive.
It was a great regular season series between these two teams. They split their 4 meetings 2-2, and it was a very bipolar experience for the Nuggets offense. Like, in their wins, they were humming offensively, and in their losses, they really, really, really struggled. In terms of how I expect OKC to approach the Jokic problem, they're going to put Hartenstein on him, and they're going to have Chet Holmgren on Aaron Gordon so they can get their big physical post defender on Jokic, and they can have their best rim protector in Chet roaming off and making plays at the rim, taking away cuts, doing all that good stuff. And I still think that they're going to double Jokic a ton because even though Hartenstein is big, he really can't do much of anything with Jokic in single coverage. You mentioned Jokic's production versus the Thunder this year. Obviously, like any Jokic box score stats are going to sound crazy. It was certainly below his normal scoring volume and efficiency, 24.5 points per game, 57.5% true shooting. But he was able to create a lot of really, really good shots for his teammates, who I also thought did a nice job of cutting off of him when he was doubled. They did a nice job of like setting pin-ins to free up shooters in the corner when Jokic was doubled. So he created a lot of plays. And part of that is something that the Thunder are willing to concede by design. Like, they are willing to double aggressively and leave the Nuggets more questionable shooters. But in the Nuggets wins and overall in this regular season matchup, those guys shot the ball really well. Peyton Watson, Christian Brown, Russell Westbrook combined to shoot almost 41% from three, and they were taking a combined 11 3-point attempts per game. So those guys were shooting more and they were shooting better, and the Thunder were willing to give them those open looks to take away Jokic's scoring opportunities. But the shooting of those guys, those role players, specifically the dudes who the Thunder are willing to help off of aggressively, like, that's going to be huge in this series. I mentioned how bipolar the Nuggets offense was in this matchup. In their 2 wins, they had a 128 offensive rating. In their 2 losses, they had a 96 offensive rating. And a big part of the difference there is just pure 3-point shooting. Like, in the wins, they were almost 49% from deep. They shot the lights out. In the losses, they were 24% from deep. They shot terribly. And they're more reliant on the 3 ball against OKC than they are in their average matchup, because OKC is going to pack the paint aggressively and they're a great interior defense. So the 3 ball is going to be more available for Denver in this matchup, especially for some of those more questionable shooters. And we'll see how well they shoot it. That's going to be a really big X factor for them. And I think the Thunder, when they are doubling Jokic, have to be crazy active. They have to be super physical with him. And the objective has to be try to force turnovers. I thought that's what they did so well in their first matchup this year against Denver, the season opener. They forced Jokic into some turnovers. They forced some turnovers when the Nuggets were just trying to get him the ball to begin with. And then when they were doubling Jokic and recovering to shooters, they ran those shooters off the line. They funneled them into help, and they just really made the whole Nuggets offense uncomfortable, starting with forcing the ball out of Jokic's hands. I do think they have to close out on Christian Brown. They might have to close out at least on Russell Westbrook with how he shot the 3 this past series, at least when he's in the corners where he's most comfortable. And then they got to trust their defense in that scramble. They got to trust their rim protection and their athleticism to cause some problems for these guys when they run them off the line. But those are the players they're going to dare to beat them, absolutely. And because of that, I don't think this is going to be Jokic's most monstrous productive scoring series, just like last series wasn't, but for different reasons. Like, the Clippers did a lot of doubling and helping aggressively on Jokic, but they also had a dude who guards him better one-on-one than anybody else in Zubats. The Thunder don't have that guy. So if Jokic does get one-on-one scoring opportunities against anybody, I think he'll cook. I think he'll have a much easier time than he did last series. I just don't expect him to have many of those opportunities. The other key for him, I think if he can really get that 3 ball going, that would be huge. I don't want him settling and living behind the 3-point line like he did in the 3rd OKC Denver game this year, where he went 2 of 10 from deep and was really relying on that outside shot, which isn't as consistently great as his paint offense. But you talk about wanting to bring the bigs out into space. Like, if he can avoid having to deal with all of the traffic in the paint that he's going to see, and if he can just get some of that efficient perimeter offense, I think that that would be really big for him in this series. I do think in terms of Denver's other key player offensively, Jamal Murray, this is a really difficult matchup. You mentioned his regular season production against OKC, not so good. He just had a really good series against the Clippers, but this is the best perimeter defense, not just in basketball right now, but that I've seen in my life. They are insane, and they have so many bodies they can throw at him who are going to play with such crazy energy and physicality, and they're going to apply so much ball pressure. And that matchup for Jamal, having to deal with that sort of perimeter athleticism and pressure, does worry me some, because we saw the Minnesota series last year where he wasn't 100%, but if you can expose his lack of burst and you can really keep him from creating separation, you can definitely give him some fits. And OKC is equipped to do that with Dort. And then when it's not Dort on him, you can put Case and Wallace on him. You can put Caruso on him, who I think should play a lot in this series. That's going to be really challenging for him. And that's where I think you have to turn to the pick and roll game with him a lot, because he's not going to separate against these guys on an island. It's going to have to be pick and roll heavy, and he's going to have to be trying to get to that pull-up jumper. I do think you could see the Thunder switch some, and if they do, I think even the bigs honestly do pretty well on Jamal. It's obviously a more advantageous matchup for him, but those guys can guard in space too, especially Chet. And then I don't think that they're going to be switching coming into this series, but if they do, I mean, they'll just immediately double Jokic off the catch if they try to get him the ball with a mismatch, which he would have if they were to switch. But I think this is going to be a difficult series for Jamal Murray. I still think the Nuggets offense is going to do reasonably well, just because I think they're a top 2 offense in basketball. But OKC is the best defense we've seen in a long, long time. And they're going to make life super hard on Murray. And they're not just going to let Jokic cook in single coverage. And they're going to dare other guys to beat them. And they're going to put a ton of pressure on Denver to protect the ball. I think beyond their shooting, that is a massive, massive key for Denver in this series, because OKC is going to be aggressive. They're going to put pressure on both Jamal and Jokic in their own ways to try to force turnovers. And when OKC is turning you over at a really high rate, they basically become unstoppable, not just because the defense is so dominant, but because that leads into their best offense when they're getting out in transition. That's a battle that you cannot let them win convincingly, or you're not going to win, period.
Yeah, I agree. On the other end of this, how often actually, first question, when we're looking at the Denver defense, who do you put on SGA? Is it Christian Brown?
It's Christian Brown.
How do you like that?
I mean, we are bringing 2 up to the level every single pick and roll. Mm-hmm. I think that there will be a number of instances in which Denver flat out traps, doubles SGA when he's not even running pick and roll. Like, they're not going to let him cook Christian Brown in isolation, which he would do. Shout out to Christian Brown. I thought he just had a really good defensive series, especially in the second half against James Harden. But their entire objective is going to be force the ball out of SGA's hands, force him to beat us as a passer, and force the shooters around him to beat us. And it's also just their defensive scheme normally to play with 2 up at the level. And they've been executing it a lot better over the last couple weeks compared to what they were doing for basically the whole regular season. But Jokic has been active up at the level. He's got hands, like he could make some plays. So obviously Denver is still not a good defense. They've been much more solid there, and they have nobody who can guard SGA, but they're going to guard him as a team. They're going to help aggressively on drives when he does get past you, and it's going to be all about force him to be a playmaker.
How confident are you in Denver's defense bringing the intensity and effort every night?
I feel good about them bringing the intensity and effort after what we saw in the Clippers series. Now, I think game 1, they might not bring it just because, like, they have, 48 hours to recover from a grueling 7-game series where OKC has been resting for a week.
I was surprised they didn't get more time off.
Yeah, I kind of thought they would get an extra day. We're going right back into that one. But overall, I think they absolutely showed you what I've been wanting to see all year from Denver defensively in that series. Just understanding they have some personnel limitations, but when they lock in and engage, they can be a respectable defense. That being said, I still don't think they have good answers, because even though I think like they'll have the right strategy, OKC just has a lot of offensive talent. It's not just Shai. And when Shai's scoring threat is so overwhelming that he's drawing 2 to the ball so consistently, they've got a lot of shooting and they've got a lot of offensive talent that can take advantage of that.
So I don't think they have a good answer for SGA. I think we're pretty aligned with that. What do you do with J-Dub and Chet, and how do you disrupt those guys alongside SGA without – because like you said, I think you have to commit a ton of defensive attention to SGA, and then that's your route. Make life difficult on shooters and try to disrupt those guys as much as you can. Who are their matchups, and how are you disrupting J-Dub and Chet?
I'm not as worried about that. Like, Chet is going to be a guy who I think the Nuggets have to live with getting some looks to execute their scheme. Like, I think Chet is going to be able to get solid looks from beyond the arc. And I don't think this is a matchup in which Chet is going to be at his best as like a self-creator. I feel like he normally thrives when there are slow-footed bigs who he can attack. And I think that Hartenstein is going to be the guy matched up with Jokic. So I don't know how many chances Chet is going to have to use his speed advantage in the half court. I think in the full court, he'll definitely get some chances out in transition. So Chet's offense just like kind of comes to him. He's not as much of a creator. There are spots where they run stuff for him, but I think he'll probably have a good series, and Denver might just have to live with that because you can't cover everybody at once. You can't be blitzing or bringing two up to the level with Shai, trapping him, and then also covering everybody on the back line. So Chet is one of those guys who I think fits in. When it comes to J-Dub, yeah, I don't think that they really are going to be able to guard him too effectively one-on-one either. So in the non-Shai minutes, maybe they treat J-Dub like a superstar and maybe they're blitzing him. They'll probably bring two up to the level with him as well. But when he's on the floor with Shai, you can't treat multiple dudes like superstars at the same time. They'll probably still bring two up to the level with him out of pick and roll, but they won't be as aggressive with their coverages against him as they are with Shai. But I do feel good about OKC's collective offense capitalizing on all the attention that Shai is going to draw. Like, I think Chet is going to get good looks, and he's shooting the ball really well right now. Lou Dort just had a bad shooting series, but he was a 41% three-point shooter this year. And Hartenstein is an S-tier connective playmaking big. So, like, if those pocket passes are there, if he's able to slip passes out to Hartenstein, if SGA is able to get him in a position to play make out of those 4-on-3s, he's really good at it. And the Thunder are the number one three-point shooting team in the league since January 1st by percentage. So I think that they're going to get a lot of good shots. And I think that J-Dub is going to kill it in his role, like being that second creator when Shai is on the floor and then carrying the non-Shai minutes. J-Dub is just playing his best basketball ever right now. I thought that he just had his best playoff series of his life. Was so impressive against Memphis. And the Thunder have just been killing it in the non-Shai minutes for a long time now. J-Dub has been a big part of that. They were plus 31 in the non-Shai minutes last series. I think that is a huge advantage. Not just looking individually at some of the tactical stuff that we're talking about on both sides of the ball for these teams, but how much does that depth advantage that OKC has play into your prediction for this series?
It's pretty massive. I mean, because you look at the inverse of that and you think about the non-Jokic minutes that the Denver Nuggets are going to have to withstand, and you just fear them getting drubbed. And so how do the Nuggets counteract that? They have to win the Jokic minutes by that much, and that's what makes it really difficult, man, because I do trust Oklahoma City considerably more. You know, if it's Kason generating my offense off the floor, if it's J-Dub generating my offense off the floor, like, that's, I think, the most scary part of this for Denver, Carson, is when Jokic is off the floor trusting Jamal trying to get his own shot, or MPJ or Russ, and it's like, I could just so easily see them getting swarmed by these other ball handlers and seeing the self-creation limitations of the supporting cast really, really getting exposed, and I think that's a massive advantage for Oklahoma City. Or the non-shooter aspect with Denver, where I don't feel like there's a non-shooter for Oklahoma City. And I think it's really important, too. We're talking about Denver shooting well. I think it's really important that they shoot well, too, because Oklahoma City has such a massive advantage there where Denver could just get outshot. I do look at it. I think it's going to be competitive, and like I said, I think it's going to go the distance. The reason I say that is because I put so much stock into Jokic being the best player in the world, into Denver's championship pedigree, but it feels like Denver's fighting a really, really uphill battle in this series. I think Oklahoma City is that damn good. I think I'm a little less confident than you in Oklahoma City's offense, though, Carson. I could see them having a few down games where Denver's defense really brings the intensity and where their perimeter shot's a little bit off, and maybe J-Dub and Chet don't get it going. I'm just a little less confident in the supporting cast, I think, than you with Oklahoma City. And
if they don't make open shots, that's going to be a problem. I think Denver's going to struggle to keep them from getting open shots unless Shai is sloppy as a decision maker and as a passer, which I don't think he will be. I think he kind of got some of that out of his system early in the Memphis series, and I thought he was much cleaner as a playmaker in the home stretch of that series. And I just think there's a lot of good shooters for the Thunder who are going to get good looks and have to, because you can't just let Shai destroy you as a scorer in this series. I think the difference in depth is absolutely massive, as you said. Like, when you go past the starting five for Denver, not even considering that like MPJ can be inconsistent, that Christian Brown can be inconsistent as a shooter. Russell Westbrook is just a total mystery box. He gave you a lot of good games in this past series, but he is very volatile. Peyton Watson, really good defensive player, like his energy, can be a real problem as a shooter and can just be an exploitable piece offensively. Meanwhile, for OKC, it's not just how great their starting five is. Like, off the bench, I'm getting Caruso, who has been phenomenal in the playoffs. I'm getting Cason Wallace. I'm getting Isaiah Joe. I'm getting Aaron Wiggins. Like, it's such a massive difference in terms of two-way talent up and down this roster. And the non-superstar minutes for both teams, like, the Thunder could not possibly have a bigger advantage there. The Thunder this year were like a +9 net team with SGA off the floor, and the Nuggets were what, like a -10 net team with Jokic off the floor. So obviously, the minutes in which the Nuggets are without Jokic are going to be fewer in this series than they were in the regular season. But like, he can't just play 45 minutes every night coming off of a 7-game series when OKC is going to be fresher. And I just worry about the burden that is on Denver starters. I think they're going to have to play so much, and they're going to have to play so hard every night to cover up for some of their athletic disadvantages against an OKC team that is so fast and so feisty and so deep. I just think they could wear them down. And I do think the Thunder are going to be really good in the non-Shai minutes, and the Nuggets are going to be really bad in the non-Jokic minutes. And that's difficult to overcome, when I also think the Thunder at their best with all their best guys out there are better than the Nuggets at their best with all their best guys out there. It's interesting to me you have this going 7. Like, that's a lot of respect for the Nuggets, or maybe a little more doubt for OKC.
I just think some of these things are going to balance out. Like, I think the Nuggets are going to get going in a few of these games. I think Oklahoma City will have a few off nights offensively. I think we're for a battle, man. I'm really excited. You know, we didn't get this playoff series last year, and I'm excited that we are this year, man.
Who do you think is the key player for both teams, if you had to pick someone?
Jamal Murray probably. I was going to say Aaron Gordon just because I think Aaron Gordon is going to be so vitally important defensively and on the glass in this series. Like,
he's Mr. Reliable though right now.
That's why I would say that it's because I'm very confident that Gordon is going to give me stability. I think it's Jamal and MPJ. I think MPJ's got to be great defensively and got to shoot the ball well, but it's more so Jamal just because Jamal's matchup is that much harder. And then for Oklahoma City, I would say J-Dub. I think J-Dub, who is going to have that's the battle that I would set the stage for me in this series. What team is going to have the more reliable second option? I think J-Dub's job is a little bit easier because I think that they're going to get a lot of attention off of SGA, but his job still isn't easy. Like, Gordon, I put a ton of respect on his defense, and I know MPJ can battle, but Jamal's job is just so hard. It's every minute out there is going to be so difficult for him. If it's Cason, if it's Caruso, if it's Dort, like, it's going to be hellish. So I'd say for Denver, Jamal. For Oklahoma City, I'd say J-Dub. What about you?
I think that Jamal is a good choice for Denver. I think that they are going to need him to have a really good series if they want to win it. And this is obviously a really tough matchup for him, but they just need somebody else who can bring like that consistent high-level offensive punch. My choice would probably be Christian Brown, just because I think his play finishing off of Jokic's doubles is going to be really important. And then I also think his ability to at least like offer some resistance to Shai defensively is going to be important for them. Those are probably the two guys who stand out to me. And then for the Thunder, I'm just feeling really good about J-Dub right now. Like, I feel like I know what I'm going to get out of him. I think Chet is going to be really important on both sides of the ball because I think he has to hit his open threes if that is just off the catch because they're putting two on the ball with Shai, or if he's being used as a screener and popping. Like, he's got to shoot the ball well. And then defensively, I think his job is really important. Playing that roamer role, containing cuts, helping on Jokic post-ups. He's very important on both sides of the ball. I would also say Lou Dort, because I think his defensive job on Jamal Murray is really, really important. And then he's got to reliably make outside shots offensively as well. So at the end of the day, I just think OKC is a far more complete team. Like, I think as a two-way team in terms of their depth, they've got real big advantages. I think in transition, like, they're probably going to dominate this series, even though Denver was a great transition offense this year, played with way more pace than ever before. OKC's transition defense is just phenomenal. And then OKC is a dominant transition offense. And I worry more about Denver keeping up with their speed as a transition
I'm glad you bring
defense.
that up because I'm talking about things balancing out with one another. I do expect 1 or 2 games OKC rolls in just because I think they could get ugly, and they could get ugly really fast if they're, if they play to their defensive ceiling where they're
if
being
you're turning the ball over, you're not shooting well, you get sloppy or lazy at all, they will punch you in the mouth and you're not coming back.
It can just get out of control really, really fast. I mean, we saw it in the first series where I think that we could have some games like that where you're missing threes, you get long rebounds, they're getting out on the break, capitalizing off of it. You're getting a ton of live ball turnovers that they get out on the break with. Like, I think we're in for a couple of games like that too. But like I said, I think that things are going to balance out, and we're in for a duel, man. I put some respect on. I put a lot of respect on the Nuggets, man. I don't think they're going to go down easy. And the reason I say 7 is just because I don't see the Nuggets losing in 5. I think they're a better team than that. And I don't see the Thunder being able to close out the Nuggets in Denver. And that's why I say it goes 7.
So do you think that Denver's the best candidate in the West to knock off OKC?
I think it's Minnesota.
Okay. I think it's Minnesota too. I think it's interesting that you're taking Denver to go 7 then. I do think that Denver is definitely the offense that is best suited to produce against OKC, and they have the best player alive factor, which is obviously a big advantage. It's just still not enough. I think that OKC is too good as a two-way team. So I'm going to take the Thunder in 6. I think it's possible that we do see like a game 1 blowout, and I wouldn't overreact to that because we've seen both teams land some big punches in this matchup in the regular season. And like, there will be a game or two where Denver's offense is fully clicking and all of those role players are hitting their threes. But I think that there will be more games where OKC's defense is able to slow them down a bit, at least more so than Denver is on the other side of the ball. And they're able to get out in transition. They're able to dictate things with their athleticism and their speed. I do think they're the clearly better basketball team, but I'm really excited for this series. These are my 2 favorite players right now, SGA and Jokic. I thought they were the 2 best players this season, and I'm very, very excited to see them do battle in this series. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun. There you have it, folks. Our thoughts on this upcoming matchup and our thoughts on the action from tonight. If you want to continue to enjoy this journey with us throughout the playoffs, you know where to find us. All of our post-game live streams are right here on our YouTube channel. You can also catch those after the fact whenever you want. You can listen back, and you can listen to our shows across all audio platforms. You can also follow us across social: TikTok, Instagram at NerdSesh, Twitter at @nerd_sesh. And if you want, you can join our Discord. That is linked at the link tree that is across our social media bios. So with that, RIP to the greatest first round of the playoffs ever. I miss you already, and I will never forget you. But I am very excited to see what the rest of these playoffs hold. I've been Carson Brabber.
I've been Logan Camden.
And this was NerdSesh.